Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. It is Saturday morning and I am going to be putting on some makeup to go on a venue tour at potentially my dream wedding venue. We'll see. I'll keep you updated. This video is my first video with Jordana Vargas. We're doing a 5-video series every day for 5 days leading up to Thanksgiving. Today's video, the first one, is just talking about our longest lasting foundation routine. So I'm going to do a very solid foundation routine, how I prep my skincare, etc., what products I use to keep my makeup lasting longer. I'll do some eyeliner and then a really simple lip, and just do a really simple makeup look in everywhere else and just focus on the base today. And then my other 4 tutorials will just be eye looks. The only thing I've done for my face so far is rinsed it with lukewarm water. I don't really use cleanser in the morning. Usually warm water is just enough to get the cream and the skincare off from the night before. And normally for day to day, I do use a heavier cream. I like to really nourish my skin, but if I want my makeup to last really long, I do use a thinner moisturizer. This is a tip that I learned from Emily Noel. It was a video she put out forever ago. I don't remember what it was called. If I can find it, I'll put it in the description box. That was a very useful tutorial as well. She really focused on the fact that if you use lighter layers and really gently build them, then it's much more likely to last versus putting a lot of heavy layers on top of each other. And I do have a video from a couple years back from when I first started my channel about my go-to wedding makeup video as a wedding guest. I still stand by most of those products that I used. This one I'm just using different products. So I'm going to start by clipping my hair back, and then I'm going to use the thinnest moisturizer that I currently have, and that is the Too Faced Hangover Primer. I know it's not technically a moisturizer, but it's a moisturizing primer, so that's what I'm going to use. If you have any moisturizers that are gel formulas or just aren't too heavy or don't have a ton of oils in them, you could also use that. So I'm going to use 2 pumps of that in my hand. And the one thing I always do before I put on moisturizer is I spray my face with a facial spray. And I think once I use up all my facial sprays, I might just put water in a bottle. It probably does the same thing, and then it doesn't have all the added fragrance and stuff. So I just spray my face with this, and while my skin is still wet, I gently pat in the moisturizer, and I feel like it kind of helps my skin hold on to some water. This is the Ulta Rose Water Facial Mist. I'm just using it up. I think it's okay. It's not my favorite, but I would say my favorite would have to be either the e.l.f. Aloe or Coconut sprays. I also like the Mario Badescu Cucumber one. I saw that there's one from The Ordinary. It's not from The Ordinary brand. It's from Deciem. I don't remember which one of the umbrella brands it falls under, but it looks pretty affordable, so I think I will order that one. It doesn't seem to have any fragrance in it. And then I'm going to use some NYX hashtag This Is Everything Lip Loving Balm and just use that to prep my lips for the day. Because I'm not doing any elaborate eye makeup, I am going to do my foundation first. I'm going to mix a couple shades from my favorite foundation. It's the Studio Skin 15 Hour Wear Hydrating Foundation from Smashbox. I'm normally in the shade 1.05. I'm going to use a pump of this and then a little bit of a deeper shade. This is the shade 2.15. I just have it, and I'm just a little too deep for 1.05 right now, so I'm going to mix them and try to better match the shade of the rest of my body. And I might use like a pump and a half of the Smashbox one and then a half pump of the 2.15. I love applying this foundation with my fingers, so I am going to get it all spread on my skin doing that. Kind of putting more foundation on the areas where I have some more redness. I think this works really well with your fingers. I think it was Meg's Makeup. I think she's the one who mentioned using this foundation with your fingers, and it changed my life. So I have it further blended out with my fingers, but just to make it a little bit more seamless and add some more lasting power, I'm going to use the Scandinavia Bridal Spray. And my sponge is already wet. I'm just going to spray the bottom of it with a couple pumps and work it into the sponge, and then use that to further press it in. Pushing in some facial spray will thin out the product a little bit, but also add a little bit more lasting power. I very much prefer to use both a color corrector and a concealer on my under eyes, but that's just a personal preference. Really, the less product you wear, the better. So if you don't need a color corrector, maybe just go in with a concealer. I'm just going to use a little bit of the NYX Dark Circle Concealer. I'm in the shade Fair. I'm so glad to be using this again. I liked the Bare Minerals one, but I just felt like it was a little too creamy. While I let that settle down, I'm gonna grab some Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion. I probably only have like a couple days worth of use on this. I've been tracking my uses, and this is probably one of the longest lasting products that I've ever used, that I've tracked. I'm very excited to share my results with you. So we're getting to a point where I'm like squeezing it all to the top, and then I'm like pinching it, if you can see. Pinching it so that whatever product is still in there kind of pushes out to the top, and then I scoop a little bit out. It's probably only a couple more times that I can do that before there's nothing left in the tube. While that dries down, I'm going to put some concealer underneath, just a little bit. Once again, not overdoing it. The less product, the less likely it is to crease and get cakey throughout the day. So this is the Cover FX Powder Play Concealer. This is a very thin formula. It still packs a punch. I'm in the shade G Light 2. It is a little bit lighter than my skin tone, which I don't mind for under my eyes. I'm gonna make sure there's not a ton of product hanging off, because sometimes like a lot will come out. You can see that. I don't need that much. So just a little dot. Use my fingers to spread it out. I'm gonna let it sit for just a minute, not for it to completely dry up, but just for it to kind of settle down and dry a little bit. I feel like that leaves more full coverage behind if I, instead of just blending it out right when it's super creamy. Just gonna very gently blend out any extra product. Right now I'm using the RCMA No Color Powder, but that one doesn't do anything for oil control. It's not gonna keep me from getting glowy throughout the day. So I'm gonna use the Urban Decay Velvetizer Powder. This has a good balance of being something that's better for keeping me from getting oily. It sets my makeup well, but it's also very lightweight. It's very silky. And so all the other powder products I put on top of it are just going to glide on. I'm going to use the Real Technique setting brush and just a little bit in the cap. And I'm just going to very gently press it. And then to set my eyeshadow primer, I'm going to pull out the Zoeva on Taupe palette, and I'm going to mix between Stitch by Stitch and Hour by Hour. I'm just going to go back and forth a couple times, mix those shades together, and use that to set my eyeshadow primer. I'm going to add a little bit more of the lighter shade just to brighten that up a smidge. Next is eyebrows. If I want my eyebrows to really last a long time, I use the ABH Brow Pomade in the shade Taupe. I like to go in very, very lightly just to fill in any gaps. I'm going to use, once again, Velvetizer Powder to set my face makeup. I know I don't talk about this powder a ton, but I do really like it. And sometimes Ulta has it on sale, like during the 21 Days of Beauty sales for half off. I got this for $17, which I think is a great deal. I am going to take the Film Star Bronze and Glow from Charlotte Tilbury. If you guys can see, I hit pan on the highlighter. Very excited. I've been really loving that highlighter lately, and I've been getting a lot of compliments. Every time I have like really glowy cheeks in my videos, it's because I'm wearing that highlighter. I'm going to take the bronzer side with this flat but still fluffy brush from e.l.f. Just going to grab a little bit and put that under my cheekbones. I think it's called a bronzer, where you're bronzing and contouring at the same time. I think Karima McKimmy coined it, or I don't know if she coined it, but that's where I heard it from first. I'm gonna lightly go in with some Too Faced chocolate bronzer. This is the Chocolate Soleil, not the milk chocolate. I'm gonna pinch the brush and just go around, so I'm not just like putting a bunch of bronzer like in my hairline. Over my eyes as well, a little bit over my nose, under my chin. If you guys have seen any of my past tutorials, you'll know I love to really pack on the bronzer. I'm going to pull out a Makeup Revolution matte blush. This is in the shade Beloved. I think it's going to be just enough to like add some real brightness to my skin. Just going to grab a little bit from here and just place it right on top of my cheeks, right here. That's how I've been applying blush lately, is like instead of just going like this, just kind of putting it right on the top of my cheekbones, like that. And I've been liking how that looks. And I'm just going to grab a little bit more on my brush, pinch it once again, and just put it right in my crease like that. That really ties the look together. Just adds a little something. This is very similar to the makeup that I wore in my video a couple weeks ago. It was the how long does it take to use up a face cream video. This makeup is very similar to what I wore there. And I'm going to bring my mirror a little bit closer because I'm going to be doing eyeliner. And I love using these little Essence brushes. They're like $1.99. They come in all different cute designs. I have like 3 or 4 of them at this point. And they're just really nice thin liner brushes. And I'm going to use one of my favorite eyeliner pots I've ever used. This is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's the waterproof cream color in the shade Jet. And it's so nice. Very pigmented, very black, super creamy, but when it dries down, it stays put. I'm just going to do a thicker line on my top lash line just to brighten up the eye a little bit. Take a brighter cream color shadow. I'm going to go back to that Stitch by Stitch color by Zoeva with like a thinner brush. This is the Morphe M508, and just very gently put that on the lower lash line. It brightens things up without being too stark, like maybe a nude colored pencil sometimes might look a little bit too stark. This is a little bit softer. Before I put on mascara, I'm going to put on some setting spray. This is once again the Scandinavia Bridal Finishing Spray. I'm not going to fully saturate my face with liquid. I'm just going to spray a couple of times just to get a really fine mist on there. I'm going to grab my sponge that has a little bit of my concealer left on it. I'm just going to put that on the outer portions of my lips just to kind of like better blend that in with my skin. And then I can put on lip liner and lipstick. Normally I'm a fan of using liquid lipsticks. I still stand by the Ofra ones. Those are long lasting enough that they will stay on your lips, but they still have like a creamier, more whipped formula, so you can reapply really easily and it doesn't get like really gunky and gross. But today I'm going to use a matte bullet lipstick. This is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I do have a corresponding lip liner that I think matches it really well. It's Bed Rose from NYX. So I'm going to use that to line the outer portions of my lips just to make my top lip a little bit more symmetrical. Then I'm going to apply the lipstick. I'm not going to put a heavy layer of it on. This is a very matte formula. It's potentially very drying. If you have very dry lips, I don't recommend using it, but it is the type of formula that really stays put. It doesn't migrate outside of your lip lines, and it is something that's creamy enough that you can reapply it and it won't look gunky, especially if you're going to be eating or drinking or like talking a lot. You could also very easily put like a tiny little bit of lip balm on top if it's a little too dry. But it is very pigmented. You don't need a ton of product, so there's not a lot of lipstick on my lips. Cannot forget highlighter. I'm going to use the Morphe spray, and I'm just going to put a tiny bit right on top of each of my cheekbones. Just a very light amount. It's a very fine mist. Give that just a couple seconds. I'm going to use this BH Cosmetics No. 6 brush. I'm going to grab a little bit, and then I'm going to buff it into my skin. And I do go all the way from like pretty much up to my nose, like under the middle part of my eye, all the way back to my temple, and I just buff it. So there's no harsh lines, but it definitely gives like a really nice glow. I've fallen back in love with this highlighter. It's one of the many reasons why I love Project Panning, because this highlighter I've owned for years and I kind of just forgot about it. And now I'm back and I love it so much. This is the Hourglass Mascara. And that is my long-lasting foundation routine. It's very thin. When you zoom in on my skin, it doesn't look super heavy. Of course, you're going to want to customize this to better suit your skin. Maybe you don't like setting sprays, but you do like primers. Maybe you prefer liquid lipsticks over bullet lipsticks. Maybe you want to add like a brow gel, or you prefer using powders. I think powders are also really good if you want your eyebrows to last a long time. Let me know if you have any special tips and tricks to make sure that your foundation lasts its longest without breaking down. And if there are any products that you think are really good at keeping your makeup to last the longest that it can. Thank you so much to Jordana for doing this collab with me. Get ready for the other 4 videos that we'll have. We will have a new video every day up until Thanksgiving, and I'm really excited for some of the looks I'm going to be sharing, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!